The Isra and Miraj are the two parts of a night journey taken by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, during a single night around the year 621. Within Islam it signifies both a physical and spiritual journey. In the Quran, Surah Al-Isra contains an outline account, while greater detail is found in the hadith collections of the reports, teachings, deeds and sayings of Muhammad. In the accounts of the Isra, Muhammad is said to have traveled on the back of a winged mule-like white beast, called Burak, to the farthest mosque. By tradition this mosque, which came to represent the physical world, was identified as the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. At the mosque, Muhammad is said to have led the other prophets in prayer. His subsequent ascent into the heavens came to be known as the Miraj. The Prophet's journey and ascent is marked as one of the most celebrated dates in the Islamic calendar. The events of Isra and Miraj mentioned briefly in the Quran are further enlarged and interpreted within the supplement to the Quran, the literary corpus known as Hadith, which contain the reported sayings of the Prophet. Two of the best Hadith sources are by Anas ibn Malik and Ibn Abbas. Both were young boys at the time of Muhammad's journey of Miraj. Within the Quran, Surat Al-Isra, chapter 17, contains a brief description of Isra in the first verse. Some scholars say a verse in Surah An-Najm also holds information on the Isra and Miraj. Glory to him who carried his beloved by night from the sacred masjid to the furthest masjid, whose precincts we have blessed, to show him of our wonders. It is he who is all-hearing, all-seeing. Remember when we said to you that your Lord encompasses mankind in his knowledge. Nor did we make the vision we showed you except as a test to people, as also the accursed tree in the Quran. From the tradition of Ibn Ishaq, the earliest biographer of Muhammad, the reference in the Quran to the farthest masjid, from Surat Al-Isra, has been interpreted to mean the site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Numerous ahadith, plural of hadith, support this interpretation. The masjid in Jerusalem was built after Muhammad's lifetime, and the term used for mosque literally means place of prostration, and includes monotheistic places of worship, but does not lend itself exclusively to physical structures but a location. As Muhammad stated, the earth has been made for me, and for my followers, a place for praying. Therefore, the phrase Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa means that there was a place, but not necessarily a building, where Muhammad prostrated to God or worshipped him, in the blessed region. When the Rashid Caliph Umar conquered Jerusalem after Muhammad's death, a prayer house was rebuilt on the site. The structure was expanded by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan and finished by his son al-Walid I in 705. The building was repeatedly destroyed by earthquakes and rebuilt, until the reconstruction in 1033 CE, by the Fatimid Caliph Ali az-Zahir, and that structure stands to the present day. Islamic scholars such as Heribert Buss and Neil Robinson believe that Jerusalem is the interpretation intended originally in the Quran. Muslims used to pray towards Jerusalem, but according to the following verses of their Quran, God changed this direction, the Qibla, to instead direct to Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And thus we have made you a just community that you will be witnesses over the people and the messenger will be a witness over you. And we did not make the Qibla which you used to face except that we might make evident who would follow the messenger from who would turn back on his heels. And indeed, it is difficult except for those whom Allah has guided. And never would Allah have caused you to lose your faith. Indeed Allah is, to the people, kind and merciful. We have certainly seen the turning of your face, O Muhammad, toward the heaven, and we will surely turn you to a Qibla with which you will be pleased. So turn your face toward Al-Masjid Al-Haram. And wherever you, believers, are, turn your faces toward it, in prayer. Indeed, those who have been given the scripture well know that it is the truth from their Lord. And Allah is not unaware of what they do. From various hadiths we learn much greater detail. The Isra is the part of the journey of Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem. It began when Muhammad was in the Great Mosque, and the Archangel Jibril, or Jibrail, Gabriel, came to him, and brought Burak, the traditional heavenly mount of the prophets. Burak carried Muhammad to Al-Aqsa Mosque, the farthest mosque, in Jerusalem. Muhammad alighted, tethered Burak to the Temple Mount and performed prayer, where on God's command he was tested by Gabriel. It was told by Anas ibn Malik that Muhammad said, Jibril brought me a vessel of wine, a vessel of water and a vessel of milk, and I chose the milk. Jibril said, You have chosen the fitra, natural instinct. In the second part of the journey, the Miraj, an Arabic word that literally means a ladder, Jibril took him to the heavens, where he toured the 7 stages of heaven, and spoke with the earlier prophets such as Abraham, Ibrahim, Moses, Musa, John the Baptist, Yahya ibn Zechariah, and Jesus, Isa. Muhammad was then taken to Sidrat al-Muntaha, a holy tree in the 7th heaven that Gabriel was not allowed to pass. According to Islamic tradition, God instructed Muhammad that Muslims must pray 50 times per day. However, Moses told Muhammad that it was very difficult for the people and urged Muhammad to ask for a reduction, until finally it was reduced to 5 times per day. There are different accounts of what occurred during the Miraj, but most narratives have the same elements. Muhammad ascended into heaven with the angel Gabriel and met a different prophet at each of the 7 levels of heaven, first Adam, then John the Baptist and Jesus, then Joseph, then Idris, then Aaron, then Moses, and lastly Abraham. After Muhammad meets with Abraham, he continues on to meet God without Gabriel. God tells Muhammad that his people must pray 50 times a day, but as Muhammad descends back to earth, he meets Moses who tells Muhammad to go back to God and ask for fewer prayers because 50 is too many. Muhammad goes between Moses and God 9 times, until the prayers are reduced to the 5 daily prayers, which God will reward tenfold. That again, Moses told Muhammad to ask for even lesser, but Muhammad felt ashamed and said that even with lesser prayer times, his followers might not even perform diligently and said he is thankful for the 5. Al-Tabari is a classic and authentic source for Islamic research. His description of the Miraj is just as simplified as the description given above, which is where other narratives and hadiths of the Miraj stem from, as well as word of mouth. While this is the simplest description of the Miraj, others include more details about the prophets that Muhammad meets. In accounts written by Muslim, Bukhari, Ibn Ishaq, Ahmad b. Hanbal and others, physical descriptions of the prophets are given. Adam is described first as being Muhammad's father, which establishes a link between them as first and last prophets. Physical descriptions of Adam show him as tall and handsome with long hair. Idris, who is not mentioned as much as the other prophets Muhammad meets, is described as someone who was raised to a higher status by God. Joseph is described as the most beautiful man who is like the moon. His presence in the Miraj is to show his popularity and how it relates to Muhammad's. Aaron is described as Muhammad's brother who is older and one of the most beautiful men that Muhammad had met. Again, the love for Aaron by his people relates to Muhammad and his people. Abraham is described with likeness to Muhammad in ways that illustrate him to be Muhammad's father. Jesus is usually linked to John the Baptist, who is not mentioned much. The physical descriptions of Jesus vary, but he is said to be tall with long hair and either red or white skin. Moses is different than the other prophets that Muhammad meets in that Moses stands as a point of difference rather than similarities. Some narratives also record events that preceded the heavenly ascent. Some scholars believe that the opening of Muhammad's chest was a cleansing ritual that purified Muhammad before he ascended into heaven. Muhammad's chest was opened up and water of Zamzam was poured on his heart, giving him wisdom, belief, and other necessary characteristics to help him in his ascent. This purification is also seen in the trial of the drinks. It is debated when it took place, before or after the ascent, but either way it plays an important role in determining Muhammad's spiritual righteousness. Many Muslim scholars like Sayyid bin Khalfan al-Khalili, Nasr Qarasi, Farqad al-Qazwini and Zachariah bin Khalifa al-Marami rejected the story of Miraj for not being mentioned in the Quran. Ibn Abbas' primitive version narrates all that Muhammad encounters throughout his journey through heaven. This includes seeing other angels, and seas of light, darkness, and fire. With Gabriel as his companion, Muhammad meets 4 key angels as he travels through the heavens. These angels are the rooster angel, whose call influences all earthly roosters, half fire half snow angel, who provides an example of God's power to bring fire and ice in harmony, the angel of death, who describes the process of death and the sorting of souls, and the guardian of hellfire, who shows Muhammad what hell looks like. These 4 angels are met in the beginning of Ibn Abbas' narrative. They are mentioned in other accounts of Muhammad's ascension, but they are not talked about with as much detail as Ibn Abbas provides. As the narrative continues, Ibn Abbas focuses mostly on the angels that Muhammad meets rather than the prophets. There are rows of angels that Muhammad encounters throughout heaven, and he even meets certain deeply devoted angels called cherubim. These angels instill fear in Muhammad, but he later sees them as God's creation, and therefore not harmful. Other important details that Ibn Abbas adds to the narrative are the heavenly host debate, the final verses of the cow chapter, and the favor of the prophets. These important topics help to outline the greater detail that Ibn Abbas uses in his primitive version. Some debates that Ibn Abbas' narrative brings about have to do with his description of Muhammad's encounter with God. Ibn Abbas illustrates God as anthropomorphed being who touches and speaks to Muhammad as a human would. This is seen as an abomination and thus takes away Ibn Abbas's authenticity. In an attempt to re-establish Ibn Abbas as authentic, it seems as though a translator added the descent of Muhammad and the meeting with the prophets. The narrative only briefly states the encounters with the prophets, and does so in a way that is in chronological order rather than the normal order usually seen in ascension narratives. Ibn Abbas may have left out the meeting of the prophets and the encounter with Moses that led to the reduction of daily prayers because those events were already written elsewhere. Whether he included that in his original narrative or if it was added by a later translator is unknown, but often a point of contention when discussing Ibn Abbas's primitive version. The Laylat al-Miraj, also known as Shab-e Miraj in Iran, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, and Mars Kandili in Turkish, is the Muslim holiday celebrating the Isra and Miraj. Some Muslims celebrate this event by offering optional prayers during this night, and in some Muslim countries, by illuminating cities with electric lights and candles. The celebrations around this date tend to focus on every Muslim who wants to celebrate it. Worshippers gather into mosques and perform prayer and supplication. Some people may pass their knowledge on to others by telling them the story on how Muhammad's heart was purified by the Archangel Gabriel, who filled him with knowledge and faith in preparation to enter the 7 levels of heaven. After Salah, food and treats are served. Al-Aqsa Mosque marks the place from which Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven. The exact date of the journey is not clear, but is celebrated as though it took place before the Hijra and after Muhammad's visit to the people of Taif. It is considered by some to have happened just over a year before the Hijra, on the 27th of Rajab, but this date is not always recognized. This date would correspond to the Julian date of 26th of February 621, or, if from the previous year, 8th of March 620. In Twelver Iran, for example, Rajab 27 is the day of Muhammad's first calling or Mabus. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and surrounding area marks the place from which Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven, is the third holiest place on earth for Muslims. Many sects and offshoots belonging to Islamic mysticism interpret Muhammad's night ascent, the Isra and Miraj, to be an out-of-body experience through non-physical environments, unlike the Sunni Muslims or mainstream Islam. The mystics claim Muhammad was transported to Jerusalem and onward to the seven heavens, even though the apostle's body remained where it was. Esoteric interpretations of the Quran emphasize the spiritual significance of Miraj, seeing it as a symbol of the soul's journey and the potential of humans to rise above the comforts of material life through prayer, piety and discipline. Taken from Wikipedia. Thanks for watching.